Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you again for another Access to Capital workshop with the AAEA. And we have a special guest this evening. And before we go into his intro, I just want you guys to like and share this information um, with your friends who are in that online space and are working on their online business. And this is very important information and techniques and principles to help you improve your online presence. Um, my name is Leslie Giscombe, and I'm the founder and CEO of the African American Entrepreneurs Association. Like I said, I'd like to welcome you to our June session of Access to Capital. And our speaker is none other than Chenzo, and he calls himself the Internetter, which is a new word for me. And it's uh, and does all the things related to the web, web development, digital marketing, content creation, training, CEO. I'm sorry, SEO. He also has a long form conventional webcast and uses that platform to highlight champions, movers and shakers, and are all around good people doing good work. Chinzo is a longtime resident of Flagler Beach, has a big heart and a very cool spirit, is captivating story. He's also a captivating storyteller and thrives on human connection and lifting others up. This man can move mountains. Chinzo, I want to thank you again for giving us your time. And we've known each other for the past couple of years, and I've
Yeah.
watched you, and I just want to tell you I appreciate what you do for that community and your willingness to share your knowledge in that space. Uh, you have a heart. You truly have a big heart. So, with no further ado, I'm going to give you the floor and take it away.
Well, I appreciate it so much. Yes, you and I go back, and I know you care about our community just as much as I do. And I've been super blessed coming from a small town with a lot of great people that I've known for a very long time. But when I crossed paths with you, Leslie, it was a breath of fresh air to see someone else as tenacious and as hungry to not only help bring better awareness to our community, but help individuals out in a way to pave the way for them to not only bring fruitfulness to their family, but to their business. So kudos to you. Also, side note, just because as you're reading that, it's always a little bit of it tugs at my heartstrings. That intro was written by a very dear friend of mine and another massively influential character in the area of the Palm Coast area is named Jay Shear. If you guys don't know who that dude is, you absolutely need to cross paths with him. He's one of the most he's I could go on and on about it, but ultimately he will make a cloudy day sunny. And he wrote that. So thank you, Jay, for that. I use that in all my marketing and all my branding because I could never have said anything like that about myself. So, but yeah, jumping right into it. I just as Leslie was saying, I've been super blessed being a. I'm just gonna have a super candid chat with those that are listening today. I'm not a business expert. I'm actually not good at the formalities. I think business is very personal, and I'm going to share some things that how I got here and how I hope I could help you out, whether it's from this dialogue and or reaching out to me and or just giving you some tips and tricks of how to improving your digital footprint. But ultimately, when I started my first business in the Palm Coast area, I was just graduating FPC. Feels like a million years ago, but it was back in 2002. So the internet was just becoming kind of this thing. We didn't really know what was going to come from it, right? It was, and I didn't realize it, but when I started my first business, it was obviously contingent on getting awareness. So I was using the internet to bring that awareness, and it was very difficult back then because we didn't have those mediums like Facebook and things of that nature. Even though they were around, they weren't really catering to a business. They didn't really know what was going on, and it seemed to be very actually social versus business minded. And I was probably on my third or fourth business venture by the time I was in my early 20s. And the common denominator always was web, right? No matter what I had built, I had dabbled in the clothing business. I had dabbled in the actually courier services. I started dabbling in some other odd and end things, but the common denominator was needing a website, needing digital branding, etc. And one of the things that seems to be very difficult even then was building something that was attractive, educational, and I had that kind of a and it applies to today. And then we're going to, not to pivot real quick, but the main thing that I preach and try to practice in all of my digital footprints is keeping your content educational and entertaining. And the entertainment factor comes into individuality. And I think we all suffer, whether we're big companies or small. We can be very apprehensive with wanting to do content that has you and or whatever persona may be in it. And what I mean by that is, even today, you could take today's example. I was super grateful to be asked to do this podcast or this interview, and you're getting ready to do it, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You're wondering, do I look good enough? Does this shirt make me look fat? Should I do this? Is the lighting good? This. And before you know it, you put all these obstacles in the way versus just putting content out. Now, for those that are spending time on social media, whether it be short-term, short like format content, you got your TikTok, Insta Reels, things of that nature. You'll notice that what's your scroll? I mean, you're flying through this stuff at a rate that's almost nauseating of how fast we want to have that dopamine hit, right? And I try to tell people that, and I have to practice it myself. It's better to put some content out than no content because you're afraid of the way you look, the way you sound. Now, this doesn't apply to bigger companies. So let's just jump real quick to companies that don't necessarily have a face or a persona. What I'm preaching and what I'm trying to implement in all of my companies that I work for, whether it's building online digital footprint and or reoccurring marketing paraphernalia, you got to have a face, in my opinion. There has to be a face. You take everything from Apple, from Steve Jobs all the way to Tesla, they have a face, they have a persona. The companies that don't are starting to. For instance, Apple started their first ever long format podcast about a year or two ago, not even. They would never do that. It was always a big, news release, and they were on a stage and there wasn't anything intimate but the product. Now they're sitting down, talking, long format, interviewing. I think we as consumers digitally, it's like dating. We don't even want to buy a product anymore unless we go out to dinner with the person that made it. We want this intimacy that's almost very difficult to get if you aren't putting that content out. Now, let me also jump on this note. I have people all the time come to me, and whether it's, let's say you own a service-based business like lawn care, pest control, something that's not glamorous. Well, in my experience, once again, there's someone there at that business that's talking to customers. There's someone there at that business that's showing their face. There's someone there at that business that's the character of that business. If you're one of those people right now that are struggling with a digital footprint or getting exposure or finding something to stick, then make it you. And this may sound a little bit woo-woo, and I'm not trying to get too inspirational, motivational here, but I told you in the beginning, I'm not a business guy. And I think that I've been super blessed doing this thing called interneting, which means that I've been cultivating and kind of incubating people's businesses digitally for 2 decades. And I take that. It was a dream of mine to do this full time, to be able to take care of people in any format, let alone it end up becoming my lifestyle, which correlates back to my original statement of interneting was just something that I had to do. I didn't even want to do it. And by the umpteenth time I was asked, like, Chenzo, can you build me a website? I was like, oh, I'm not going to build your website. I'm trying to build a clothing business. I'm trying to build and I started to realize that there was such a need for having people bridge that gap. And now what I try to show people is I try to educate them more than just yesing them to death or yesing them for lining my intake financially. For instance, for all those out there right now that are running a business or any type of, you're trying to bring in incremental revenue online and you don't have, let's just go over some simple things that without a doubt cost you nothing but time. And if you don't have time to invest in your business, we're in a bigger problem than digital. Download your TikToks, download your Instagram, and you can cross-pollinate that content that you're putting out there, but start posting. And it may sound absolutely ridiculous, but 5 to 10 times a day. And right away, sometimes people go, are you kidding me? But my audience is going to hate that. Or what am I going to talk about? Or my friends and family are going to hate it. I learned a very valuable lesson in the very first user business. Your friends and family are not your consumers, period. I don't care what your product or services are. Even Elon Musk is probably dealing with a problem where he's probably telling his auntie's mother's cousin, no more free Teslas for you. Okay. I run a business. So don't worry about it bothering them. And don't worry about your immediate local audience about, geez, this guy just posting like crazy. It's annoying. Maybe they're not your market either. But complement your lifestyle by putting out content that you're doing something involuntary. What I mean by that is, if you happen to be you have a fascination with coffee or something, even from a hobby perspective, and you don't even sell these things, but you have such a habitual nature of your lifestyle that you're using them, talk about them. Because what's happening now on the internet is that people believe other people when they're doing a lot of it. So something that you're doing involuntary in your business, whether it's using a product, a service, etc., talk about it. And by consequence of talking about the good, bad, and indifferent, maybe it's a review, maybe it's what you like, what you don't like about it. You're starting to build awareness, and you're starting to once again hit the two most important things that I think: educating and entertainment. Now, let's refine that. Obviously, you don't want to get too sidetracked if you're running once again, a law firm, and next thing you know, you have 10 posts today talking about why Starbucks coffee is this. You don't want to get too crazy out there. So you do have to hone in on if you do have a product or service, but then focus on the fact of the matter with the creation of artificial intelligence and chat GPT and things of these nature. If you're someone out there right now that's not utilizing this from a recreational perspective all the way to professional, call me. Literally after today, call me immediately. I will help you. I will help you as a friend first. I'm known as someone who's relational, not transactional. You have got to start utilizing these groundbreaking, internet shattering tools that you can use to your advantage to complement your content. And that's what I'm trying to educate people is the whole name of the game is Google's job is to bring useful, relevant content to the consumer, right? So that's where we'll get into the SEO factor. How does a website rank? Well, it's not about just paying a firm or agency. It's not about just paying tens of thousands of dollars per year or per quarter on AdWords. There's times and places for that. In my opinion, time sensitivity product and their services reflect a guerrilla warfare type of approach of marketing. But when it's something that you plan on being in business this time next year, here's some quick tips and tricks that I implement that have worked for me and for my customers. First and foremost, when building a website, if you want to use your online free builders and or low cost or easy builders, let's go over a few of them. If you've never heard of some of these terms, then it's good to know of them. And if you're using them, there's no harm, no foul. I'm going to show you the good, the bad, and the indifferent. First and foremost, you have your Wix, your Weebly's, your Squarespaces, your GoDaddy builders. The list goes on and on and on. There's more and more and more of them. And what sometimes people can do, the average person will say, oh, I'm just going to use one of those. And I don't need to build it. I don't have to have someone build it. Or there's validity to that. But let's talk about the pros and the cons. Just like the real estate space, the physical real estate space where there's renting and there's owning, there's leases, and there's all these things. It's just like how these programs work. One of the most biggest misconceptions with these builders for building an online web presence for just website is if you do use a Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, etc., the silver lining to that a lot of people don't know is that it's not yours, meaning that the terms and services that company has, you are subjective to that. So let me give you an example. Shopify is a wonderful platform that supplies e-commerce solutions to consumers that have small businesses that are and or big that are trying to sell product online, and or even on non-tangible services, right? It's an online store, and it's great, and it's a platform that I use a lot for myself, for my customers. Well, here's some of the ugly about it. You're paying this monthly fee. That monthly fee is a nominal dollar amount depending on the tiers that you may need. So depending on what you pay, that's the services that you have, how many products you can sell, the solutions that you get with it. But the average product is about 20 some odd dollars, and you'll be able to sell decent. That's usually a good umbrella resource for most businesses or individuals. Well, what ends up happening is time is the most priceless commodity in a ranking Google perspective, meaning that this time next year, whether you're trying or not, Google's going to slowly but surely put your website on the SERPs. And that acronym stands for Search Engine Result Pages. Once again, whether you ask them or not, Google's taken that content, putting it on their resource so that people can find it, whether you want it to happen or not. That's why there's a whole nother industry with people trying to get things removed off the internet. For instance, mugshots, legal stuff that you may have been through, lack of better words, stuff you don't want seen is a whole nother issue, and that's reputation management. But let's get back to the actual getting stuff seen at a higher rate. Well, you're on these platforms now. You're on a Wix, Weebly, you're on a Shopify. That's great. And they're going to do their damnedest to get you rankings too. Shopify is going to sell you tools and services for an extra couple shekels. Wix is going to say the same thing. GoDaddy Builder, Squarespace is going to be that button. Like, do you want better rankings for an extra couple shekels? Who's going to say no? So you're going to click that. So they're going to be working in congruency to Google to try to get you those rankings. And it will come slowly but surely. So now all of a sudden you're ranking. And Shopify, out of nowhere, changes their terms and services. What's the big deal about that? Well, let's just digest the fact that their terms and services financially are going to always be a hockey stick. None of these companies in the existence that I've been around on the internet full time have gone this way, just like everything else. So when Wix came out, it literally was free. Then it went to $5, $10, $20, and that yearly goes up, 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 up. Same thing with Shopify, up, 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 up. Those costs are never going to go down. So let's digest that, put that aside. Well, the one thing that you can't avoid is that I had a handful of customers that were in the homeopathic holistic segment. They were selling things and or services that were to help people and individuals out, whether they were all their own brainchild type of product and or service. Well, what ended up happening with Shopify a while back is they changed their terms and services that said you're no longer allowed to sell those types of things. I also had a customer that was kind of in the marijuana segment. I forget the exact like strand or breed or whatever it was, but ultimately it was like it was this gray area of the marijuana segment a couple of years ago, and Shopify just exited and said, you're not going to be able to sell that on our platform. Well, guess what? These individuals that had a site that was about 2 to 3 years old, ranked pretty well, was doing very well, and now they're gone overnight. And what I try to educate with people is the good and the bad. There's a time and place to use these third-party tools, but I have solutions that will use them and they don't use us. Meaning, and this is perfect science, you build a website that you own on a platform that's open source, WordPress, Joomla, Drupal. Now, I'm not trying to confuse anyone that's listening to this now, and some of this web vernacular is like, what is he talking about? The point is, if any of this is giving you the weebie-jeebies or you don't know about it, well, then holler at me and I'll help you out legitimately. I'll help anyone out that calls me from this particular broadcast at zero cost to help you out as a friend first and give you tips and tricks that further after today's dialogue. But most importantly, you build a website that you own, not using a third-party tool. That doesn't also mean that this is some sales gimmick that you have to reach out to me. There's a lot of other people in this industry. There's a lot of ways that you can do it if you look into it. But if you don't want to deal with it, my whole slogan is I do web so you can do you. You build that online, that site. Let's use the analogy of just like the physical real estate realm now. Now you own your building, you own the land, you own the domain, you own the hosting. Those are pretty much the 4 variables that are working with this thing. I use that as an analogy, but ultimately it's your domain. I want you to own the website, and I want you to own the hosting. If you're currently working with a company now, or you did something already and have a site and you don't even know anything that I just said, at some point, sooner than you can think, it's going to be very important. And if you don't have access to those areas, or you don't know who or what is controlling them, you don't want to be on that phone call with me, because it can get bloody. Meaning if the person, place, or thing that has it and they're no longer here, or that person's abducted by an alien and you can't get a hold of them, you're going to see how fast and how quickly you're in a big, what I call web trauma, because it becomes an emergency situation where your website's down, you don't know where your hosting is, you don't know where your domain is, etc. But let's push that aside and get back to the fact of Shopify changed their terms and services. You're making significant dollar amount per month with revenue that is providing for you, your family, your businesses, and all of a sudden, overnight, it's halted. Well, what do? Well, if you take my approach, meaning you build your site that you own, and then you link out to platforms like Shopify, this, that, and the other that are giving you the resource just for e-commerce. For instance, you're going to build a business that's going to do ride sharing, but you're going to be doing in this specific area. Well, you don't need to build an Uber. The Uber already exists, but build your online website that you own, gain your rankings, you own it, you're not renting it, and then you link out to resources like an Uber, like a Shopify that complement that business. And if they change their terms and services, which is inevitable, you can literally, lack of better words, do like a Lego, unplug that and replug it into another platform that is giving you those services. That's something that so many people miss out on and find themselves in this kerfuffle where they can't keep doing business. So that's one of the biggest things that I try to preach and practice, and that is own your online real estate. And that then we can bleed right into kind of social media and where the importance is of how to make sure you're using social media not as your one main storehouse and or your one main way of making revenue. For instance, YouTube, not too long ago, changed their terms and services and the way that you can monetize. I had tons of customers that made a living off of bringing in monetized videos through YouTube. They changed their terms and services and or they were pinned as being copywritten. Some kind of outlandish things were going on. Ultimately, the revenue streams depleted and they go, well, how am I going to get my videos out? Let's go to that basics. What I do in those situations when you're using a YouTube, an Insta, a TikTok, things of that nature, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, just like in anything else. So what I recommend doing is that always make sure with the content that you're producing, it can be really cumbersome to take this in, but bear with me. Having your content through a website in addition to your social media in the event those platforms and their terms and services change. For instance, I may be jumping around a little bit, but I hope you're following. The TikTok thing, if you're not aware of it, big deal. They're still hanging by a thread that any day the states may X TikTok. There are people as we speak that are state-based that are making significant money because of the awareness and the recognition that TikTok is bringing to their business and or ad stream that they are bringing in through TikTok. Any second that could end. Well, what are you going to do? In my opinion, it's going to be, once again, a pain in the you know what, but you make sure that that content is also being saved somewhere and then can be fed. Because what I've realized is this: people will find a way to still find themselves entertained. They don't care. For instance, how many people now, us as consumers, if you're an avid, I'm a huge soccer guy, right? So if the Champions League final is on Paramount Plus, but the English Premier League is on Peacock, I got both. You think I'm not going to subscribe to both? I've got to get my fix in. So I've got to watch my English Premier on Saturdays, but that's on Peacock. But the Champions League is on Paramount. Two entities, two subscriptions. I found them. I got them. So what I mean by that is this: if you are smart out there or utilizing, exhausting the knowledge that is being shared, for instance, in this interview today, the content that you're sharing socially on platforms should be getting put on a website that you own. So that means no matter what happens to the social media outlets, you have your backup and or your one main place of resource as your entertainment center, your Paramount, your Peacock, and it's your terms. There's tools and services through these open source platforms that you own the website and you can put whatever content you want out there. Obviously, some regulations are state-based, but it's yours. You're not regulated to, oh, it's YouTube, so you can't talk about gambling. Well, you could build a gambling website. You may not be able to sell services, but you can talk. Anyone can build a site. You can even base that site out of a country code that doesn't have those parameters. And when people start to realize that the internet, they're really, the sky's the limit. It's not about getting rich quick. It's not about making tons of money, in my opinion. I've got customers all over the world, and I've noticed that just probably like in simple life, when you put money first, or you forget about what your dream or your services are, and all of a sudden you got that anxious syndrome of money or this, it's not going to work anyway. Start producing content that's complementary to the segment that you are in. And if you're one of those people out there, which we all are, struggling with what content to put out, join the club. Everyone's dealing with it. Everyone, look at Super Bowl commercials. They're working on those all year round, and the majority of them suck. So don't get yourself down on making the best commercial or the best post. It's not going to happen. And the shelf life of this content is seconds. I don't know if you got, for those that are out there that have seen, it's almost disgusting to even talk about. And TikTok's the leading aggregator of this. You've got a video on top, you have a video on the bottom, and it's spliced. And that video on top is actually something of education. It could be a sound bite of an interview. It could be a educational piece on the behalf of anything, and it's good content, and it's the upper half of the video. And below it is a cartoon of a video game or something rather ridiculous. And it's insane that those videos are getting better retention than a video just like this, just one-on-one education. We've lost our patience. We're all guilty of it, and that's never going to change. There's people out there that are trying to they're against it, or they're going against the grain, and they're preaching about how horrible it is for the psychological development of us as human beings. Get with the program. It's over. It's happening. My point is, use it. Don't let it use you. So start using content like that. It may seem ridiculous, and you're like, oh my God, I'm literally spoon feeding what seems to be like vegetable brains, but that's what we are. Our content shelf life is seconds out there. Majority of people that started listening to this 5 minutes ago have already logged off. It's what we do. It's what's going to happen. There are still people out there that enjoy long format content. There's a place for it. I do it. There's a whole opportunity for those people out there that feel something on their heart from a business perspective and or even recreational perspective. Start a podcast. It was super chill. Yet again, putting this out there. Anyone that listens to this that may be wanting to or had felt like I want to, I don't know what to do, call me. I'll help you out. I'll show you how to do it. My middle name is Frugal, being in business for 20 plus years in this area. Trust me, I'll show you how to get one, start one, very little upfront cost, and it's super chill to run. Point is, put content out there that is long format. There's still a large segment about it. Joe Rogan's, etc. The list goes on. People that are probably listening to this are long format listeners. We're there. So there is value to that. And that is the time to actually dive into more thorough discussion. It doesn't have to be super thin. But when it comes to your ongoing daily content that you're putting out line, don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. And there's going to be days that you're going to not like the way you look. There's going to be days that you think you sounded stupid, but literally people are scrolling at 100 miles an hour. But there is ways that you can get them to stop the scroll. That's something that I've coined years ago, and I'm not always good at it, but there's something that you'll start to see that's sticky. With the access to the analytical data and all of these social media platforms now, whether it's Insta, TikTok, Facebook, if you're not utilizing that analytical data, finding out basically what color underwear people are wearing when they're on your portfolio or your platform, you're silly. And if you don't have the time, that's where people like me and everyone and their mothers are interneters now, reach out to somebody. And and me, I speak for myself. I'm not growing with the trend. I'm still charging what I charged many, many years ago to some of my customers because I do this full time and I'm not trying to become a billionaire. My pricing, my relationships with my customer are digestible and fair. But my point is, don't try to take on too much either. If you're having a hard time and you're one of these businesses, you've been around for, let's just say, net 6 months, or you're kissing your year marker and things are going okay, but your social media online presence and your website are just, you don't like them, well, then do something about it. It's okay. Another thing I tell people with internet or with websites and your online footprint, change it. change it as much as you want. It's the internet. You can have fun with it. I have people now that they even change their branding almost like twice to three times a year. Have fun with it. It's okay. The main thing that people want to know is that your services, you're showing up and you're providing that product or service consistently. And the internet's just in my opinion, it's turning a place, it's turning into this, keep it simple and keep it fun and don't overthink things. And I think you're going to start to see if you can find someone, once again, going back to my original statement, in your business, if you can find somebody, ideally, I'd like it to be the owner, the one that the brainchild of it, get them to start posting content as much as they can and putting a face to the brand and or service. And I guarantee you, literally guarantee you, if you're one of those businesses out here, especially locally, I'm going to just let me be Palm Compton minded for a minute. Let me just be Flagler County minded. This doesn't apply to bigger cities, and for those that are listening in other places, we envy your vastness. We're growing, but everyone knows everybody here to some degree, and we love to work with people. We're still old school, and those businesses that I work with locally are some of my most favorite customers because we can keep it super funky and chill because people in Palm Coast, our teachers are our customers, our cousins are our customers. Like it's crazy. It's a small town, meaning utilize that to your advantage. You know how many times still to this day I'll put content out and they're like, "Oh, damn, you still doing internet stuff?" And like, and you think to yourself, like, "Man, how did you not know? Like, I've been doing this since we graduated high school." Once people's lives are going 100,000 miles an hour, and they're not going to. Oh, and that's the purpose of putting out content. You're always going to see some. If it's one new set of eyes that didn't know, even today, if after this interview somebody goes, "Oh, I didn't know that," Chenz was rocking this particular segment of web. I need that. That's the point. Keep producing information. Rest in peace to a wonderful man named Kai in the area of Palm Coast. He taught me when I was just kind of getting going in this business thing. I always been running my interneting, but like really starting to try to like amplify my customer base. He taught me to put content out, which that was simple. But what I was overthinking was I would say to him, I'm like, Kai, I don't know what to put out. Like, how am I going to educate people about interneting that they don't already know? And I'll never forget, he said, he had this demeanor about him and he kind of leaned into me and he goes, they don't know anything. And it was a really paramount moment for me because what you guys are doing as a business, each and every one of us, every single person that's working at a company and or you're running your own business, you're doing 10 things at least a day that are involuntary, that are somebody else's rocket science. For instance, buying a domain for me, when you go online and buy a domain, I can get them very inexpensive on a property, not through a third party, right from a registrar, one-on-one that I own in like 2 seconds, right? I've got hundreds of domains. Buying a domain is like blinking to me. I'll never forget Kai, we literally use that analogy. And he goes, why don't you teach people how to buy a domain? And I was like, who doesn't know how to do that? Bingo. Take the time, and believe it or not, this correlates to some of the most fantastic literature known to mankind. Be benevolent with your education. It may seem ludicrous for a painter or a lawyer or a meat processor, which are all these types of customers that I have. Take the time to actually educate them on how you do your job, which is crazy because you're like, why am I going to tell them how I file for an injunction on a business? They're not my customers. I need people to hire me to do that. Here's the point. By consequence of you putting out this content, you're inadvertently saying that you are the guy, that you eat, breathe, sleep this stuff, that you can do it. You do it full time. You do it with your eyes closed. So that's the content I put out. Hey everyone, this is me, Chenzo. I got a quick tip for you guys today to save a ton of money. Here's how you buy a domain. Boom, you can screen share it. Yes, there's tips, there's tricks of making that content a little bit more engageable, doing music, audio overlay, text overlay. There's tons of stuff. but that's where the marketing comes in. The focus is the education. And the entertainment is someone's eyes. You'll notice in any video that you even stop on that has a person versus an inanimate object, you're going to stop. Why? People love people. So get somebody in your business, if it can't be you, to be the spokesman of not, hey, everyone, hire me. Hey, everyone, this is what we're doing. Maybe even sharing. This one can be a little bit out there. Not a lot of my customers like it, but it works. Share some woebegones. Share some of the gripe and the grit that you're going through as a business, and let your customers get intimate with you. For instance, when people find out a restaurant may not be doing well, or I don't want to talk about the exact instance, we had a restaurant here locally in Flagler Beach that had a massive family trauma, and they shared it and they were public about it. And the response was amazing. Now, would that work in maybe Seattle, Washington, where there's tens of thousands of people per square foot? I don't know, but it's here. We have a small town and people care about people still here more than the bigger. So use that to your advantage. Be a little candid. Share with them some of your growing pains, good, bad, or indifferent, with keeping it obviously politically correct, so to speak. You don't got to get too woo-woo with it, but be honest, be sincere. And ultimately, I'll close on this. One of the coolest things I see working amongst all businesses and those that I subscribe to online, and or those that allow me to nurture their online footprint, vulnerable. Just be vulnerable, be honest. With your product, your services, you may be back ordered. I've got customers that are doing so well by consequence of their products or services being amazing, and combination of having wonderful guy like me doing their online footprint, that they literally have terminology on their website and or their marketing paraphernalia that we're booked out until next summer. Be honest. Don't yes everyone to death. And by consequence of that, you're building this awareness and you're building this recognition. People want to work with people. And if I hope if any of this made sense today, is to boil down what the web is supposed to do. And that is to bring useful, relevant, and or entertainment content to the consumer to get their attention, to build the awareness. And then the problem is you got to do it. Not problem, but the solution is, a great man once said, my local chief of a police, Chief Downing, I love you. You're only as good as your last 24. So that majority applies to our beautiful men and women in service and or helping people, because you got to reboot and you got to keep your headspace clear. But I take that even into a personal and business perspective. You got to do it again. And it's annoying. It can be very annoying to go, well, I got to do more content. That's it. We got to stick out in a very crowded environment. And trust me, no business can come to me and say to me, my competition is just too big. Well, welcome aboard. Once again, I coined the term interneter. Everyone in the mother's interneting. There's no test. There's no licensing. There's no permit. You just internet. You just build a website. Just say you are, and you can start. And there's a lot of people doing it, and there's a lot of people taking, and there's a lot of people not providing. Don't worry about that. Stick out in a crowded environment by providing your services and showing the people online how you're doing it. And I'll close ultimately on this as well. The people out there that have a tangible product, whether it's cakes, whether it's even a before and after of washing a car, post it. Post it. I envy those. I have an after effect, and that is my websites or some of the marketing pieces that I come up with. But me in general, my services are not visible. I can't, this isn't boom, look at this. Those that have that, utilize that to your advantage. Restaurants, things of that nature, post those. The photos should be unlimited, and the videos of who, what, where, why, what it is that you're working on. And I promise you, once you start to get to that level, oh, we good? I was trying to, I don't have a timer, so I don't know.
Nah, you're doing great. You're doing great. You got
that's pretty much.
You got 10 minutes. We're good.
Well, I don't know if you have any questions or anything to piggyback on that. I kind of just threw it all out. That's off the dome, bro.
No. You did great. A couple of things though, I'd like to just compliment you on, and that is, and it's something that I noticed myself, and you can tell me because you're probably more of an expert in that than myself. And I like how you said that join the club as far as concern about content and and worrying about content. But I think you said something that was very important, and that is people want transparency, and also I think you're aware of this as well. Stories sell. Is that correct? Right.
Amen.
So basically, every day is a new story because there are different opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that people who are posting content, uh, they have a way of using their everyday existence and
Mm-hmm.
creating content from it because every day is different. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way you bring out the importance of not being afraid whether that content is a good experience or a bad experience, because
Mm-hmm.
either way it's an experience and it's a journey. And when you're willing to be transparent enough to share some of your I would say your obstacles, it's a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? So
Amen.
this way people don't believe that you just arrived where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
Yep.
process. And I think it helps them to understand that in their entrepreneurial journey, that it's not going to be all winners. You
Right.
know, there are going to be situations where you're going to lose from, but the idea there is for you to learn from it. So
Right.
it did pave a way, and for one way or the other, it was an experience that you learned from that you can now share and help somebody else with along
Mm-hmm.
that journey of this entrepreneurship world that we're living in right now. So
Got it.
you said it well said, Chenzo. I appreciate that. The way you explained it, and it just flowed from your mouth. You know, you didn't have a hard time saying it,
Thank you.
and to me, it speaks to
Yeah.
your
I mean,
experience.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's, it's funny because I don't want to get, for those that listen today, about like, I, I don't want it to come off to like motivational speaker genre, but at the same time, what I noticed is that for the longest time, there was about 2, 3 years of my business endeavors that I actually was dealing with my own branding and my own identity online. And I went by like web therapist for a little while. This was years ago, and it never stuck. But the reason I came up with that was almost, and I mean, you know this, you're an avid massive influential piece of in our community. Every meeting, if it's catering to business, what's the split? 80% personal, 20% business. You know what I mean? By the time you start really talking, I mean, that's for me. There's those that don't have that, and I've had those experiences. You sit down with somebody and it's cold, right to the point, and let's say no bedside manners. Nobody wants that. I don't care if you're buying a car or going to get your spleen removed. Smile a little bit. You know what I mean? Like throw a little TLC in there. And there's a fine line between going. You don't got to be too verbal vomit. Maybe not everyone wants a friend, maybe, but giving someone the opportunity to see who, what, where, why they're dealing with will, I promise you, and I know you know this, it will, and using the internet as the segue to get someone, it's like even with you taking the opportunity to put these formats out and let people see you, hear you. It's different than just seeing a logo. It's
Right.
different than just seeing a photo that says today's a beautiful day, hug your mother. There's a time and place for that. But when someone can hear, see, smell, touch a product, that's why Best Buy is still in business. Isn't it crazy? You think to yourself, why is Best Buy still in business? I get whatever I need online. Yeah, go to a Best Buy right now. See how busy it is. See how busy Apple is right now. Why? Because we're tangible. That's why the VR thing still isn't picking on. We don't really still want to be blocked from reality. We do. There's a pheromonal exchange. There's a communication exchange. Now I know I'm talking digital, but you hit the nail on the head, Leslie, and I appreciate you identifying that. And that is just post content and get someone's got to be in it. That's
Mhm.
probably the biggest thing. And if you're suffering with finding a like tapping into that, and or you feel like your online footprint's starchy or it's just not working, then you got people like me to help you. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. This was truly a great presentation, Chenzo, and I look forward to having you again for sure. Oh,
You
by
got
the
it,
way,
man. Well, I appreciate you.
by the way,
Yep.
Chenzo, I don't mean to cut you. Did you put your information on the screen? Can you put your contact information just in case?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
I mean, I have
I know you have
I'll do a
customers all
quick.
over the
Let me see if
world.
I can. This is my website. I don't know. Is it showing? I hope
Yep,
it's. It
yep.
says it's showing.
It's showing
So
great.
this for those that I keep my stuff super simple, and I'll show you guys how I'm practicing what I'm preaching. My website's ChenzoDesigns.com. Look, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm gonna just practice what I'm preaching. I don't even like that photo of me, man. I had to do some revamping of my photos the other day. I've been using outdated photos. I had some people like, bro, who are you? And I'm like, that's me. And they're like, you don't even look like your online stuff. I'm like, damn. So trust me, I had to do some photos the other day. These aren't like paid professional headshots, but I had to get some new branding. But this is my site. You'll come here, you'll see the services and things that I offer. I kind of refine them to web development, marketing, branding, SEO, web maintenance. You'll notice though, I'm all about throwing content out. So this is my YouTube stream fed right through the site, coming on down, and you'll see all of my I have my Insta feed through here, and then also my long formatted podcast. So for those that are trying to connect with me or you want to hear a little bit more about me, these are my reviews and what I do. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure. I got my blog at the bottom too, so you can see kind of putting out. There's a whole nother segment of that too, is that putting out written script and making sure you're educating your audience and things. But ultimately, this is a good opportunity for you guys. If you haven't heard of me and you want to put a little bit more validity behind me or dive into some of my content, it's ChenzoDesigns.com. And like I said, anyone that reaches out on the behalf of your show, Leslie, I'm not kidding you. I reiterate this. I will help. I do it anyways, but I will make them feel even that much more like world treatment, because it means a lot when people take a time to put forth paying attention to a particular entity or property like yourself. And I will help them out no cost to give them some tips and tricks, and even maybe evaluate kind of their online footprint and give them some constructive advice of where I see them being able to, amplify that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Chenzo. And
You're welcome,
I
brother.
guess they can I guess they can find you on the web. They don't need your number or email information, so that should be
Yeah, it's all
they should be
it's
able to pull that
it's
up.
all it's all on there. You got
Awesome,
it.
awesome. Thank you, Chinzo. And
You're
by the way,
welcome, Leslie. I'll talk to you soon.
by the way, before you leave, do I have a commitment for you to come back?
100%.
Okay, you heard straight from his mouth, guys. He'll be back. Thank you, Chinzo.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, too.
All right,
God
man.
bless everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you again for another Access to Capital workshop with the AAEA. And we have a special guest this evening. And before we go into his intro, I just want you guys to like and share this information um, with your friends who are in that online space and are working on their online business. And this is very important information and techniques and principles to help you improve your online presence. Um, my name is Leslie Giscombe, and I'm the founder and CEO of the African American Entrepreneurs Association. Like I said, I'd like to welcome you to our June session of Access to Capital. And our speaker is none other than Chenzo, and he calls himself the Internetter, which is a new word for me. And it's and he does all the things related to the web, web development, digital marketing, content creation, training, SEO. He also has a long form conventional webcast and uses that platform to highlight champions, movers and shakers, and are all around good people doing good work. Chinzo is a longtime resident of Flagler Beach, has a big heart and a very cool spirit, is captivating story. He's also a captivating storyteller and thrives on human connection and lifting others up. This man can move mountains. Chinzo, I want to thank you again for giving us your time. And we've known each other for the past couple of years, and I've
Yeah.
watched you, and I just want to tell you I appreciate what you do for that community and your willingness to share your knowledge in that space. Uh, you have a heart. You truly have a big heart. So, with no further ado, I'm going to give you the floor and take it away.
Well, I appreciate it so much. Yes, you and I go back, and I know you care about our community just as much as I do. And I've been super blessed coming from a small town with a lot of great people that I've known for a very long time. But when I crossed paths with you, Leslie, it was a breath of fresh air to see someone else as tenacious and as hungry to not only help bring better awareness to our community, but help individuals out in a way to